So, what I was saying was that the reason for the difference between these two books has to do with their different point of view. Now let's look, for instance, where does Tumac end? So Tumac starts earlier, but also ends earlier. If you look, Tumac ends with the victory of Judas Maccabee over another messenger called Nicanor. And it says that, therefore, because of this victory, line 35-36 of chapter 15, they even cut out the tongue of godless Nicanor and hung him up inside of the temple or something. Oh, they hung his head from the citadel. And they all passed a decree by unanimous vote, never to let the day go unobserved, but to celebrate the 13th day of the 12th month, called Adar in Aramaic, the eve of the day of Mordecai. So this is a holiday that I'm not aware any Jews observe. Maybe he does, but he's gone home now, so he can't tell me. But I'm not aware that any of them observe this particular holiday. And I don't know that any of them actually observe this, but it's called the Day of Nicanor, and it's on the eve of the Day of Mordecai. So what is the Day of Mordecai? The Day of Mordecai. What's the Day of Mordecai? It's another Jewish holiday. Purim. They didn't call it Purim yet, but it's what the Jews call Purim. It's the story of Esther in the Bible. These people don't even know that. I don't think the book of Esther is missing from the Dead Sea Scrolls, whether by accident or otherwise. I think otherwise. And the reason I think it's missing from among the scrolls, the only biblical book that's not represented in the scroll fragments, probably the reason it's missing is because if you know anything about the festival of Purim, Esther, as it's called here, the Day of Mordecai, Esther gets into the harem of the king, and I guess through her sexual expertise, convinces him to do all kinds of different things. Politically, I mean. I think that the Zealots and others represented by the literature in the Dead Sea Scrolls would not have approved of a Jewish woman, even for that purpose, to get into some foreign king's harem to try to get him to be favorably disposed. I mean, she meant well, but I think they wouldn't have approved of a book like that. So I don't think it is represented in the Dead Sea Scrolls for that reason. There's another book of the Bible, in the regular Bible, I think it's called the Book of Judges, where a woman, I think her name is Yael. And there's another book called Judith, which is in the Apocrypha, where what the woman does is sneaks into the foreign king's tent and hammers a peg into his head. That's what the good Jewish patriotic woman does to the foreign invader. Doesn't get into the harem and seduce him into giving benefits to her people. I admit the second behavior is more effective, but I think rabbinic Judaism, with all due respect to my colleague here, would endorse the second kind of behavior. But the zealotry of some of these other forms that move into perhaps Islam and Al-Qaeda and things like that would prefer the first form, the first form of behavior, if you understand. Anyway, so we have a holiday that, interesting enough, how is it decided? Well, there's another holiday that's going to be decreed by unanimous vote. What's that? Hanukkah. In this book, it's going to be given to the vote of the people, and they ratify it, I think, by vote. It's the only holidays that I think we're familiar with that are not, given by God. Revealed in the Torah of Moses or something. These are holidays ratified by vote, like Thanksgiving or something. So I think that's pretty honest and straightforward, and I think that's the new period. This one is only celebrated by Catholics, I think, because it's in their Bible. But I don't know of any Jews who celebrate the day of Nicanor. But what does it celebrate? His head hanging and hanging from the scaffold someplace. Never mind. The point is, Maccabees 2 ends there. Nothing about Judas's death. Nothing about Mattathias is not even mentioned. He's a non-person. Where does Maccabees 1 end? Let's look. Well, Maccabees 1 goes through Judas's victories, his death. I'll go back and cover these in a moment. His succession by Jonathan, his one brother. That would be in, oh, by the way, here's the day of Nicanor in Maccabees 1, 739. So it says in 750, the 13th of Adar is celebrated annually. So 739 to 50 in Maccabees 1 is chapter 15 or so in Maccabees 2. And so, as you can see, chapter 7 in Maccabees 1 is only halfway through the book. So Maccabees 1 covers material not present in Maccabees 2. Maccabees 2 cover material not present in Maccabees 1. And now the opposite occurs here. In any case, I'll go back over this, but quickly, Judas is killed in chapter 9, 9:19, we have the funeral of Judas. I find this stuff because I've got titles under my sections, which would help you guys if you want to hurry and find these things. Then Jonathan succeeds him, his brother, and we'll talk about him when we go back over this quickly. But